Everybody good? All right. I want to welcome everybody to the March 21st, 2023 meeting. It's 6 o'clock. At this time, I need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, Chairman's going to do the invocation and pledge. I'm going to relate back to a sermon I heard not too long ago from Steve Johnson about lifting your needs up to the Holy Spirit, because if you don't know exactly what you need, or your needs are many, Holy Spirit can help. So let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much, and we lift our needs up to the Holy Spirit for our community and our citizenship. Dear Lord, you know what those needs are. The needs of our state and our state elected officials, you know what those needs are. Our nation, as we have a lot of uncertain times. But dear Lord, I ask that you bless these this board, that we make decisions that are pleasing to your name. But all this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have to tell Brother Steve that I was listening to one of his sermons. If he's listening. All right, we move on to a consent agenda and approval of the minutes. We had a work session on March 7th, along with the first Tuesday, March 7th, along with an executive session. If y'all have had an opportunity to review the minutes, everything's fine. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Chairman.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Is Miss Henson here tonight? Miss Henson? We had Miss Henson down as a visitor. If she shows up late, we'll call back on her. New business. Malden Jenkins, David Irwin. Welcome again.
Hello.
Bring us some good news.
That's right. Well, good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Good to see you again. My name is David Irwin, and I'm with Malden Jenkins. I was the partner who oversaw this year's audit of the county's financial statements, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to discuss with you all the results of this year's audit. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but again, the purpose of this evening's presentation is just to provide you all an overview of our independent auditor's report, talk about the compliance report that we issue in conjunction with the audit, hit a few of the financial statement highlights, discuss some information that the auditing standards requires that we communicate to you all, and obviously answer any questions that you all have. The financial statements themselves that have been presented to you all, that you all have in front of you this evening, they are the responsibility of management and members of the board. As your independent auditors, our responsibility is to issue an opinion on these statements. We conduct our audit in accordance with the government auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards. And I'm happy to say that we are issuing a clean or unmodified opinion on this year's report. Again, this is what you want. This is the highest level of assurance that we can provide to your external auditor. What this means is that, in our opinion, the financial statements are considered to be fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Again, as I mentioned earlier, as part of the audit, there is a compliance report that we also issue called the Yellowbook Report. Again, the Yellowbook Report is a report on the county's internal controls and your compliance with various laws and regulations. And I'm pleased to say that we do not have any audit findings to report to you all this year, meaning we noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the county's internal control during our audit. And as I've communicated with you all in the past, with the new accounting standards that are being implemented each year, and really just how complex the financial reporting process has become, it makes it all the more impressive to be able to present to you all a clean opinion with no audit findings. And again, that's certainly something you all should be proud of, and it speaks volumes to me about the hard work done by your staff. Jason, Labita, their entire staff once again did a great job. As always, they are very accommodating to our audit team, and worked hard to answer all our questions and get us everything we needed in order to get the audit finalized within the state mandated deadline. So Again, we've enjoyed working with them this year and certainly appreciate their hard work. Now for a brief overview of your financial statements. As you look through your financial statements, one section I always like to point out is the management's discussion analysis. This section begins on page 5. It's right after our audit opinion. And I would strongly encourage everyone to read this section. The purpose of the MD&A is to make it easier for a broader audience to use and better understand your report. And it does this by providing a narrative explanation of the financial statements from management's perspective. So, oftentimes, if you have a question about any fluctuations in the financial activity compared to prior year, if there's anything unique or unusual that happened during the year, a lot of times you can find your answer within the MD&A. So, again, this section, it does a really good job of summarizing the financial statements and providing the reader with an analytical overview of all the financial activity that occurred throughout the year. So, the financial statements, there's a lot of information in this report. I can certainly understand if you don't want to read it cover to cover, but I would certainly recommend that you all read the MD&A. Now, the county's basic financial statements, they are broken up into 3 components, the first of which being your government-wide financial statements. Now, the government-wide statements, they provide a broad overview of the county's operations in a manner similar to that of a private sector business. You have 2 columns. You have the governmental activities column and your business type activities column. And you all only have one enterprise fund, which is your water and sewer fund. So your business type activities column is solely your water and sewer operations. And as you can see, there's also a separate column for the county's discretely presented component unit, which is the Jones County Board of Health. But if you turn to page 15 of your financial statements, if you want to follow along, this is the balance sheet. As of August 31st, just hit a few of the financial statement highlights. As of August 31st, the county had total assets and deferred outflows of resources of around $99 million. That's an increase of about $22.3 million compared to prior year. But as you all recall, the county did issue debt this year, so a significant portion of those assets of the increase is your unspent bond proceeds. The majority of your assets are your capital assets, net of accumulated depreciation, which is around $50.8 million for the year. Capital assets, again, that includes all the land, the buildings, the machinery, equipment, the vehicles and infrastructure that's owned by the county. And again, you all also had approximately $46.3 million in cash and investments. But again, just a quick reminder, about $16 million of that is your unspent bond proceeds as of year end. Looking at your liabilities, the county had total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources of $42 million. That's an increase of around $18 million compared to FY21. But again, common theme here, the significant reason for that increase is the debt that you all issued during the year. Of your total liabilities, approximately $31 million are classified as long-term in nature, meaning these are liabilities that are not due within the next fiscal year. County ended the year with a total net position of $57 million. That's shown midway down on page 16. And that's an increase of about $4.2 million from prior year, which is a little over 8% increase compared to FY21. So again, that's a brief financial summary from the government-wide perspective. And overall, it was a good year. As I mentioned, your net position increased by about 8% compared to FY21. But again, that being said, this is really the only time you'll see the county's operations reported in this manner. In the day-to-day operations of the county, the focus is more so on the individual funds themselves, which brings me to the second component of your financial statements, which again are the fund level statements. Again, the fund level statements, this is typically what you see throughout the year. It focuses on individual parts of the government, and it reports the county's operations in more detail than that of the government-wide statements. And when you talk about all the different funds of the county, if I'm in your shoes, my primary interest would be the general fund. Again, the general fund is the main operating fund of the county, and it's where the majority of your revenues are received and funds expended. And if you turn to pages 23 and 24, you'll see the income statement for your government funds. And again, when you look at that general fund column, total revenues in the general fund were about $22.3 million for the year. That's about $1 million increase compared to prior year. As you would expect, the majority of your revenues are derived from taxes, which was around $18.7 million. A couple other significant revenue sources worth mentioning. You all have about $1.3 million in intergovernmental revenues and around $1.4 million in charges for services per year. Midway down that page, you'll see the expenditures, which total around $19.4 million. And that's about a $2.5 million increase compared to FY21. Again, as you would expect, public safety, general government, and public works represent the majority of these expenditures. Public safety was around $6.5 million, and it represented about 30% of the general fund's total expenditures. General government expenditures were about $4.8 million, and your public works was just over $4 million for the year. So, in total, the general fund's fund balance increased by approximately $2.9 million for an ending balance of $16.3 million for the year. And I'm sure as you recall last year, but this is one thing I always like to remind people, fund balance is not what you all have in the form of cash, spend as you see fit. Fund balance is merely the difference between assets and liabilities, only a portion of which is cash on hand. Additionally, another thing to keep in mind, the general fund incurs expenditures of approximately $1.8 million per month. So as of the county's fiscal year end, the county had unassigned fund balance equal to approximately 8 months of operating expenditures. And what this means is as of August 31st, the county theoretically could have continued to operate for 8 months without any additional revenue sources. So that's a very strong fund balance for a county your size. It's something you all should certainly be proud of. But again, one thing to keep in mind is that a portion of that fund balance is necessary to cover the expenditures during September through November when your revenues are typically down. But you all have done a really great job over the past 5+ years of continuing to increase your fund balance. And looking back, I did this earlier today. 6 years ago, your fund balance was about $5.7 million, and as of August 31st, 2022, it's $16.3 million. So, again, you all have consistently stayed within your budget and have been able to continue to add to your fund balance, which is something that everyone in this room can be proud of. I commend you all for that. One other fund I do want to briefly mention is your water and sewer fund. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that's the sole business type activity of the county. And again, enterprise funds are used to account for operations in a manner similar to that of a private sector business. The goal of these funds is to produce sufficient operating revenues to cover your operating expenses. And if you turn to page 34, you can see the income statement for the water sewer fund. And as you can see midway down that page, water sewer fund had operating income of about $260,000 this year. That's double what it was last year. And it was 2 years ago, it had a slight operating loss. So we went from having a slight operating loss 2 years ago to about $125,000 in operating income in FY21 to $260,000 in FY22. So after you factor in other non-operating revenues and expenses, as well as capital contributions and transfers from other funds, the water sewer fund's net position increased by about $772,000 for an ending balance of just over $17 million for the year. So again, very, very good year for the water sewer fund. One final item to discuss, again, is just certain information. I mentioned earlier that the auditing standards requires that we communicate to you all. With you all receiving a clean opinion, no audit findings, this is really essentially just a formality, but we did receive full cooperation from county management staff. There were no disagreements with management on any financial reporting matters. There were no significant issues that we discussed with management that would have affected the financial statements. And again, we are independent of the county as required by governmental auditing standards. And with that, unless anybody has any questions, that concludes my presentation. But again, you all are in good financial shape. The audit went very well. I want to thank your staff again for all their hard work. Again, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be of service to you all. Look forward to working in the future.
Sure, we appreciate it. Any questions? Thank you again. Like I said, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Because you always have a smile on your face and you get in a good mood because we got good news.
It's always good to deliver good news.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, if I can get a motion to postpone handicap parking. They asked for it to be postponed.
All right. Motion to postpone item number 2, handicap parking, Chairman. Second.
Second, all in favor, aye? Library update. This lady's always got a smile on her face, too.
Yeah, everyone doing?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to come and give y'all an update on everything that's going on at the library, and really just to say thank you for the support you give. So I'm going to try not to be too long here. I won't be long, I promise. But the library is thriving. And last year, our numbers, we had 25,285 patrons come in the door. 25,285 patrons. So that's phenomenal. I can't say how much I appreciate y'all voting when I came last year for the extra position. There is no way we could do what we're doing at the library without that. Because by having that third person there and my 3 staff up front, I'm able to do community partners, get grants, be in the community, support the Board of Education. There's so many things that I'm now able to do that I couldn't do before. So that's a huge thank you to you, and much, much needed that we needed that position. Of 16 libraries in the Middle Georgia Regional Library System, there are 2 or 3 much larger than us, but our numbers are top on almost everything across the board, which is phenomenal. Our circulations, we had, in 6 months, 25,000 books come through our library in 6 months. It's just phenomenal. So when they bring us the tubs, most libraries get 1 or 2 tubs. We get 9 tubs when they come in. It's amazing. It's wonderful. So that's just showing you the amount of this going in and out. That's books coming in that people are coming and checking out, that they've ordered. So it's just a steady stream. We have between probably 120 and 170 people in there every single day. So it's just a busy place, and it's a wonderful place. And we're really trying to become a community center, and we are definitely doing that. We're thriving. We have a lot of different programming we have going on. Also, just another brag, the region wants every library to have 40% library cards for their population. And none of the libraries, I think, have even reached 30. Most of them are in the teens or in the early 20s. We are at 37.81%. So of 40% that they want us to have, we have 37.81% people in our county that have library cards. So that's awesome. And I attribute so much of this to my staff. I have the 3 most amazing staff. If you're ever in the library, you'll know it. They love everyone that walks in the door. They speak to them. They know what books they want. They're ready to help them. I mean, I know Wendy's nodding. She does. If you're there, it is just the most loving, welcoming place. And the kids come in and they're running around and they're playing, and there's no shushing. We allow no shushing in the library because there are places people can go for quiet, but we want children to love it. We want families to love it, and we're seeing that word of mouth. So our programming we've got going on, we've got Wriggle Worms on Wednesday, every Wednesday at 10. The last 2 weeks ago, we had 22 0 to 5-year-olds. 22, that's not counting parents. And then last week we had 18. That's one of our big, and it's just like ants everywhere. It's crazy. But we do all kind of stuff for them, puppet shows and crafts and read books, and we just want them to love the library, to love learning to read and literacy. So we have that. We have Coffee Corner, which is decaf coffee and hot chocolate for our teens. We have STEAM Kids that they come in once a week and do. We have Brunch Buddies, which is our retired community. We have brunch for them the first Monday of every month, and we've had a retired history professor from Virginia that just moved here, and he's coming and doing programs for them. We had a big full house for that. We've got our teen programming, Nerf Gun Wars we've done, our adult book club. We have 3rd through 5th grade book club. We have our teen graphic novel book club, art classes. All of this is going on every month. That's just normal stuff. We also had just finished with our sensitive subjects area. We're really excited about that in the back. This is an area that has books for people that are dealing with all kind of emotional issues, divorce, financial problems. We got a Tri-County grant that we were able to, they gave us $1,000 for books for that, and we just completed it. We'll be having that, I hope, in the paper. We will be soon. And then we got children's books with part of that grant also, and we actually had another grant come in that 50% matched it. And these are books for kids that are dealing with anger or frustration or bullying, for little children, but also about kindness and inclusion and handicaps. And so we're excited. We got a whole area for children with these amazing books that are fun and engaging for that. Our outdoor reading area, I know y'all all know about that because they're redoing the playgrounds. They told me they thought it'd be the end of March or 1st of April. They will put the tables and the benches in and the shade sails. And then we've got our garden club coming in to have a garden area for the kids, very interactive. We've got just a lot going on in there and very excited about that. We've worked on that for a year and a half, so that's super excited. So that's coming in. We just started a new program, and this, I'm tremendously proud of this program. This is our Master Special Olympics. These are our adults 22 and over who are special needs in our community, and there was nothing in the community for them. So Leah Bodnerchuk, Josh Eccles, Ty Gordon, and I got together and decided to start a program for them. So they're meeting at the library once a month. And we're doing, you know, sometimes we do things in the library, sometimes they go outside. Last week they were there and they did Nerf gun wars all around the library. It's crazy. And they did kickball. And we're just excited to get this group together. Hopefully we can start maybe twice a month. But there's just nothing for them. We're so thrilled. And then, yay, I put in a grant for our rural libraries, and we got a $1,000 grant for that program. And then Tri-County put in another grant for Tri-County. I have time to do this. And we got another, so we got $2,000 for that Master Special Olympic program. So we're just over the moon about that. And so excited that the library can sponsor something like that for the community and be the support for them. So everyone's excited, and we're just looking for more and more to do with that group, because they're just, a lot of them are home, and they just don't have anything for them to do. So that's very exciting for that. Play cards is what we started last year at the Board of Education, where every child can use their lunch number. They come in and they can get 5 books with their lunch number. Every day we have kids come in. It has hardly missed a day. They come in and they'll say, 31478. It's like, oh. And so we put in their lunch number and they check their books out. And they are so proud. And this is tremendous. We are so excited. So every child, I don't think anyone opted out in the entire school system is able to come in and get books. And they're doing it. So we're so excited because there's so many families that can't get the parents to come in, or there's just a lot of reasons that they can't, get families to go. So now the kids can just get their books. That's wonderful. Our computer lab, we have around 10 people or more a day in our computer lab, and one of my employees is usually in there because these are people that come in that don't know how to use computers, or our seniors who are trying to get forms printed out, or just a lot of help needed in that. So we almost have to keep someone in there. And sometimes we sit for an hour with someone, helping them find a resume or how to work out their Medicare, or, we don't do it for them, but we're helping them find all the resources. So that's a huge thing in our community. We're really proud to have our computer lab. We're averaging about 260 people a month that are in our computer lab. So that's always very busy in there. Our summer reading is coming up. That's our busy time. Schools go out, we go in. The theme this year is kindness and friendship and unity. And we're going to become Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, because that was the friendliest thing I could think of. And so we're excited. We're going to set up the whole library, and it's got a lot of amazing. We're doing community partners. So one week is like Public Works, and they're going to bring all the big trucks out. And one week is the fire department, police department, and they're going to come out. And one week we have an artist, and we have the garden club coming. So we have a lot of community people coming in, so the kids can see what our community partners do. And I know I need to stop talking. I'm sorry, I could go on and on and on. But I just wanted to come to thank you, because y'all support us, of course, in a huge way. We always know you're here to help, and we just are so excited that the library is becoming what it's becoming. And it's because of your support and you helping us out. And I just, and I could go on and on, because we have all these community partners that we work with. Boys and Girls Club, Board of Education, Family Connections. A lot of meetings are starting to happen in the library. We probably have 5 to 7 a month that are like big groups that come and use the back of the library. So we just, it's just growing and thriving, and more people are coming in, and we're thrilled. So I'm here to thank you and just to give you a quick update. I hope that wasn't you. Do you have any questions or anything I can answer about it?
We thank you, because when you go into the library, the energy you're showing us right now and the passions is what you see in that library. And y'all make that successful. Makes our job easy. But we thank you.
Well, I have a great staff, and thank you very much. Thanks for letting me come.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Great report. Right, have a good one. All right, Ms. Wagner, you got a opioid resolution I think I need to sign.
Ashley, do you want to talk about it?
Hey, yes. So, there is litigation regarding the opioid industry and a new class action going after some new providers. And so we can join in on that class action as well. There's no downside to it, as we saw from the one that just settled. And I would recommend signing the resolution.
Any questions for Ashley? If we make it official, then get a motion to authorize me to sign the resolution.
I make a motion to authorize this signing of the resolution for the opioid.
So we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? If none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, thank you, Ashley. All right, number 2 on old business. Start off, there we go. On old business, every district in this county have equal importance and needs, and this board acknowledges those equally and the needs. As we start this agenda item, I have to ask each board member a question. Who on this board has sit down one-on-one with our finance director to go over the ability of our water department and the enterprise fund? Show of hand. 2. The funds available and what they're earmarked for would have been one of the things that you would have met with the finance director on, and she could explain what and where and why. This board voted on projects that are currently on the books. Our engineer was directed to start these projects. Our first problem on these project list is now we're 40% over budget due to material and labor cost on today's market. Easy math, $6 million to complete this project. The earmarked funds are to ensure the water department and the county can meet the obligations we currently have on those rainy days. Our water department and enterprise fund cannot keep up with the rising cost of this economy. Our funds from our customers are set and cannot be changed. The board needs to look at our current projects and come up with a plan, how we're going to pay for the current projects, and what direction does our engineer need to go with on changes. I'll open it up for conversation or questions. Anyone?
Sure. So I appreciate that you guys have sat with the finance director. I think that it's critical, especially for the chairman and the vice chair, to do that. For anybody that makes a decision up here, we ought to be making decisions off of a strategic plan that we came up with. Who here has sat on the strategic planning committee with all of the commissioners present? Nobody, because we haven't created that strategic vision. And I don't know where you work, how do you operate without a vision, right? And the Bible's clear that my people perish for a lack of a vision. You work for one of the most complicated, difficult to manage, sometimes hard to wrangle organizations, and you guys have planning sessions because you manage a lot of money and you're tasked with the most critical thing, and that's managing people's kids, right? And we have the most critical task in the county, in my opinion, of managing the people's money to be good stewards so we can facilitate all the things that we do and make sure there's money for the school district, et cetera, right? But we haven't sat down and do that. So we make these plans or we make these decisions almost in a vacuum. This decision is this week, this decision is next week, and it's not with a clear, concise vision. And I recommend that this board has that, so we don't make pocket decisions about water that should have been made years ago because they need water now. No different than a bridge that's been out for over a year, right? So there's no indictment on anybody except us, and I include myself in that. I know that we can find money to do almost everything we want to do in this county. We have to make a choice. The presentation tonight showed that there was roughly, was that 13 million in fund balance? Not all of it readily accessible cash. That's some good decision making, right? I don't take any credit to that because I'm here making decisions as they come to me, right? But I also know that there is access to those funds because we only have to earmark a certain number of months to operate. But if I had to make a decision on those funds, I could. But more importantly, I know I could leverage those funds to do the right thing. And I'm just going to say this real quick, and I'm going to be quiet for a second. We pay Macon Water Authority almost, $400,000 a year? That's service debt on $9 million. We could have made this decision 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. But we've never made the decision. So for at least 10 years that I've been sitting here, we paid them over almost $3 million to service wastewater. And I only say this to address that particular point about water and sewer. We lose money on sewer, we make money on water. The water department is better run, and it's showing that they're making money. If we better run the county in terms of strategic vision and look at how to use money that we pay out to other governments or other authorities, we can leverage those in-house to do what we need to do. And lastly, when we look at missed opportunities over at the industrial park, you guys have sat in more of those meetings than I have because I haven't been as engaged. We probably missed 4, 6, 8, 10 projects or more for lack of sewer, right? And those are problems that we could have solved years ago. He just mentioned we had the auditor that we had a surplus with $1 million. And it's the same $1 million that's been popping up every year. If we had allocated that $3 million to tying into Macon Water Authority for sewer 3 years ago, we'd have landed a project by now. Been really close because we were top 4 or 5. Again, those are funds and missed opportunities that we should not have or experience because of lack of strategic vision. And all I'm saying with regard to the Bradley project, District 4 sewer, industrial park sewer, is let's cast a vision and really direct resources so we get there. I'm done. And good job to the finance department because the money's there.
I'll agree with 75%, 1,000%. The 75% of it is that we're doing a good job with the financial side of it. We're doing a good job with projecting our expenditures on them and managing those expenditures every year. I will disagree a little bit that, when we run the numbers on, $6 million is roughly $400,000 a year, so not $9 million, so there's a little number correction there, based off of the current rate of 2.9%. So it might have been a little better when it was 0% or 1%, but right now, our going rate is 2.9%, so we're roughly $400,000 on $6 million instead of $9 million. But when you look at the financials, we got a $700,000 balance, but we've only got about $200,000 annually that we're surplusing in the water department. Everything else is paying out for something. So if you take $200,000, which is the only money we can spend on anything water or sewer, is $200,000 a year. Every dime we got, $200,000 a year. So that wouldn't get us the $3 million we need for the sewer at the industrial park. So it's a chicken and egg thing. We know that. I agree 1,000% that we're not going to get any chickens if we don't start heading that way. I also agree that we got to have a holistic plan to get somewhere. I think our engineer brought us about 5 or 6 items last time for the work session, and we've got through one of them. So I think we really need to make the time to sit down and figure out what our priorities are, what our costs are, and how we're going to pay for them. Because you're exactly right. Had we made some decisions 10 or 20 years ago on a 25 to 50-year plan, which is what most counties do in a strategic planning, they look out 20, 30, 40 years down the road, we'd be 10 years into it now, and we'd be a lot better off than we are now. Number one, it's probably a worse time than it was 5 years ago for the cost, for the percentage rates are not as good, and lead times on materials and cost of materials is outrageous. So It's the worst time to choose to do a project, not the best, material-wise, cost-wise. It's not the best time percentage-wise, and we got to figure out how to sustain that for about 5 years until we get projects in the ground and customers on there. Because we know if we voted today for $20 million, it's going to be probably 3 to 4 years before we get any revenue from the new customers, and we got to have that or we can't. So we got to figure out how to sustain it. I agree we've been doing a great job. Maybe it's time to leverage some of that against something to get there. I know that the water department can't fund. I spent probably 4 hours today going through old emails, going through all my old files on water department stuff. And I had a book this thick that was left to me by the former commissioner that said, with a note on it, said, keep up with this. It's probably the last one in existence. And I went back, and I'll tell you, this project that we're talking about was talked about 12 years ago. It was talked about 8 years ago. And it was voted down then when the prices were much more economical than they are now. I just had a conversation with constituents a week ago about roads that were passed over, and every road around them got water except theirs, long before any of our time on this board, and they wanted to know how that could happen and why it happened. And I can't answer those questions. All I can do is guarantee that it won't happen now unless we have 3 votes that do something like that. And I don't understand how that decision was made, but it was made. And we are where we are today, and so we can't fix something that happened, 10 or 15 years ago. We just got to make the best decision not to let it happen again. And I think that is our vision needs to be that we utilize the resources we have to get the best bang for our buck. Meaning, we don't show partiality to areas or to people or to influence or any of that. It's how many customers can we get based off the expenditures we put out there? And that should be the bottom line. What's our return on investment? I mean, if we treat it more like a business, then we can look anybody in the eye and say, here's why we didn't go down your road. Because it's $500,000 and there's 3 people and it's 3 miles long. And only one person on that road wanted water to begin with. I do think we need to have that work session, and it's probably a lot longer than an hour. I would suggest we sit down on a Saturday and plan for an 8-hour Saturday like we do in budget session, and maybe even need a couple of them. So, but I'm game for it whenever we can make it convenient for our schedules. So I think we got to do it.
I agree with Sam too on that. We need to make that vision. We need to see where we need to be in 5 years and 10 years and 15 years. And I know since sitting on this board, John and I don't know if he's as confused as I am sometimes about what we have voted on and where we're at with those projects. I'm always quick to tell somebody, when you hear us vote on something here, it's not going to happen tomorrow, because it doesn't. It might be 2 years down the line. But those projects, we know that we've got to have the sewer in the industrial park, because that is one X that we get every time somebody comes to look at that property. It's got to be there for us to bring in any of the jobs, and they're coming in looking at us every week at our industrial park. But we've got that one X, and it's the sewer department, not having the sewer hookup there, that's holding us back from some pretty big industries that could be in there. And that is an eyesore. I mean, people, that when that place was put there, it was a lot of negative. And we can be the ones that can turn that around and make it something to be proud of, to be sitting up here. But can we do it right now? No, not financially. Not with, if we're going to do we need plans. We need set in stone plans of where we're going to be at 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and we need to stick to them.
You know, as we're talking on the industrial park, and we talk about sewer, we're one business away from being in the
Yep.
sewer business. The right person coming to that industrial park could fund our sewer operation.
Yes.
I mean, we've been asked, cost. And, the question I ask, how much is it gonna cost us for sewer? That's what the cost of that park could be. So that park could literally turn into it's an asset of the community, but it could be a paying asset because it could put us in the sewer business
Right.
in a short period of time with paying customers. So that there is a light that with the right person, could happen. And we're not the only community that people have come to look at projects that didn't have sewer on site the minute they come. It was, can you promise us sewer
By a certain date, exactly.
by a certain date? Oh, yeah, you got to check. I love to say we'll sell Peter to pay Paul.
And I also like what Baldwin County did. They surveyed their whole county and on who wants water that does not currently have water hookups, who would like sewer that currently does not have sewer. And I mean, go road by road and see what those surveys would look like and what areas that would give us that growth that we need to see on a chart somewhere of, okay, we know that we got this saturation that wants sewer and water that doesn't have anything, and these over here don't want anything, they're fine right like they are, or they need water but don't need sewer, because we all know that there's parts or places around the county that doesn't perk, and they're having septic systems problems. And we got other people that are out of water that's got plenty of the land perks and their septic tanks are fine. So I would really like a survey like that done.
Mr. Wood, I was gonna let ladies go first and didn't want to pass you up.
No, I'm good. I'm letting Wendy have her. All these are legacy decisions, and some members sat here years ago, and there was water lines put in, and I'm not sure there's any customers hooked to those water lines, such as on Highway 22 going to Baldwin County. The pressure's so low it'll never fill the tank. It was questioned then. That's a legacy decision we paid for, and it's essentially unusable. It's in the ground. It's there. Hindsight's 20/20. If we could have seen things 5-10 years ago, I'm sure things would have been differently in other parts of the county. We'd probably had water to people that need water. And a lot of times people don't know it's available until they hear of a grant. Then their interest perks up, and then they make it known to the powers to be, hey, I'm sharing a shallow well with 3 other houses, and you have the septic. Shallow water, bored well, it's not a good combination with multiple septic tanks in the area. We apply for a grant, hopefully we get it. But these are legacy decisions. But hindsight's 20/20. I think all of us will agree to that. And there's decisions I know in my life, business-wise, if I had done things years ago, I would have probably done a few things differently. I think we all would have done that. But these are legacy decisions on this county, and there's a lot of people in need. I just hope we make the wise decisions and talk about it and make a strategic plan that will service the needs of the people.
Talking to Brandon a little earlier, and I think we agree your biggest need right now is more water, right? He's got wells running 24/7 sometimes to keep up. So, I mean, I said one time before that we're putting the cart before the horse. We need to have that work session. That way we can instruct our engineer on where to go and what to do and what our, we've already voted on projects, and I love to finish stuff. I don't like to put it off or get it started and say, guess what? Well, we started on it. Maybe one day to finish it. Let's finish what we started. If we got opportunity to relieve some debt, to go get more, let's do it. And there might be opportunities, if we can look at it. But yes, I think we need to get with the schedule of this board, and let's plan a Saturday. Let's go early so maybe we get off late. Get off early.
Yeah, start early and finish late. What about?
Maybe everybody want to listen to hear themselves talk. No, I'm just messing up. But no, we get started early and have some good numbers. And I would love for each and every one of y'all to sit down with our finance director and let her go through what she's gone through with me, so that you can kind of have an insight of her fear of, she sees it every day and she knows day in, day. We have good months and we have bad months. Winter's not a good time. We have a wet summer. Summer's not going to be good because we're not going to be selling the water. So, we got to have that rainy day fund. We sure don't want to burn it up and have some, nothing to fall back on. So, when y'all are ready, I'm ready.
Chairman, I do want to make one comment about, just because I pulled all my numbers from the budgets that we've gotten recently, and I pulled the amortization charts and the pay schedules for the debt service on the 3 GFA projects that we have now. And we got one that clears out in 12 years, one that clears out in 16 years, and one that we just started for the big water project that's a 30-year bond. And if you add all those up, year one, we're at $310,000 a year that we pay. And that's 30-year loan bond money. As we get farther down the line, it gradually increases up to $990,000 a year. So that's it gets up to $1 million a year that we pay when we get towards the end of the loan, because it's a gradual scale. As you get the construction done, you pay it back. That's the benefit of the GFA loans. So I just want us to remember that $310,000 a year has to come from the water fund, and it has to be. And we voted on this $15 million bond based on a rate structure, SPLOST money. For this SPLOST, just to get us by the first 3 or 4 years, and then new customers. And we got to get that's, pardon the pun, but that's going to the well too many times for water. We don't have anything to get until we get something in the ground and get more customers and get more revenue. So we gotta remember that these are 3 funds that we have right now that we are obligated to pay these. We got a schedule to pay this amount of money out of the water fund. So just wanted to throw that out there when we start talking about water projects and sewer projects, because that's all the same. It's all the same bucket.
I want us to be cognizant of the fact that debt is a real reality for most governments, especially small governments. We happen to have an enterprise fund that actually does produce funds, and we've been blessed to have our tax digest grow and generate this excess revenue. Again, we have to be wise stewards of how we use it, and it's not extra departmental money at the end of the year or reward for doing something else. It should be earmarked for our strategic vision and nothing else. And hard and courageous conversations have to be had with department heads, the sheriff, our partners in law enforcement, EMA, et cetera, to get them to understand, hey, you know what, this is something that's essential that we have to do. When I hear, our fund balance grows, I'm happy, but when I think about the projects that we didn't do, that we should have done, I'm not so happy. You have a steady, healthy growth of $13 million, but if you had $13 million worth of unaddressed infrastructure costs, it's not such a good thing, right? So I didn't fix my roof. I saved that $5,000, but next year my roof still needs to be repaired, and now it costs me more because the material costs are higher and the labor costs go up. And that's a fact. COVID changed all of that, but every year labor goes up, and so does material costs. So we have to keep those things in mind in terms of how we amortize our debt down and what we use to do that. The water fund, that $200K, that's positive cash flow. We don't talk about the construction account that comes out before that number is shown, which has a surplus of about $1 million. Then we allocate it towards a project. So we have to talk about all those buckets of funds and resources that we use. So it's not just, hey, we only got $200K. It's, no, there's $200K, but then there's this construction fund that we allocate funds to for big projects. We also have to be vigilant in that, go back through the budget. When you guys first got elected, we went through that budget line item by line item and did some good work. I can tell you that the budget has grown since then, no different than from the first time I came in, looking at $15 or $17 million. Now the budget's almost $28 million. Holy cow. In 10 years, we moved to $11 million, almost. That's crazy to me. But there are expenses that come into play, and we gave people raises, and we've improved our health care and done some different things that cost money. But let's look at cost reduction and really comb through the budget and find those areas where we can save money. When I look at $310,000, I think of the front ends on the sheriff's cars, right? We know that Dodge, you're going to replace the front end, you're going to spend a whole bunch of money there. I'm willing to bet somewhere between $180,000 to $200,000 in repairs on Dodges last year. I can talk about diesel fuel. I could talk about a bunch of other those expenses that are way out there. That, again, if we go through and do the diligent and vigilant things to make it, to reduce some of those expenses, we can get there. And then we can talk about, again, getting away from paying Macon Water Authority hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, which we could be bringing in-house, right? There's so many ways to skin this cat. That strategic session, I think, will help us really having an honest conversation with the budget and how it all works and where these numbers go. Will help us, because you're seeing this, and I've seen this a number of times, and I've gone through this a few times and really went to Vita my first year and said, all right, talk to me about every page, let's get it done. So I understood this a little better. But we have to be micromanagers of the money to make sure we get the money to where it needs to go. And that's all I'm suggesting. Let's really look at all the pockets and buckets, have the plan in session, and let's allocate accordingly. If it's $3 million to get into the industrial park, that's a no-brainer, right? We know we're not paying $3 million today. We're allocating it, or we're putting it on the books so we don't spend the $3 million someplace else to do something else. And if we honestly don't have it, I'd rather tell our department heads, hey, we don't have it because we really did what we were supposed to do, or we just don't have it for you today because we have something else that we need to take care of.
But Commissioner, I think we're still mixing the two that are totally separate. So we're not talking about cutting department heads to get sewer, because those are two separate accounts that are not anywhere near each other. And the $1 million construction fund that you're talking about, when I said $310,000, that's this year's payment. We got $200,000 a year that we're making in the water department. $110,000 a year while we do this debt schedule is coming out of that $1 million. So that $100,000 a year, every year that $1 million goes down. We have not transferred, if we look at the budget numbers, we have not transferred a dime into that construction fund since last October, because we're having wet winters and wet summers, so we're not collecting. There's good years and bad years, and that $1 million is not a lot when you got a $300,000 payment every year guaranteed, and the $1 million is not guaranteed. So I'm comfortable with our fund balance there, and I'm comfortable that we have $200,000 this year, and it has been more, and we're able to transfer out of it. All that's good news. I'm just real scared when we start talking about a project, and you know, the Bradley that we're talking about, to be able to fund that project right now, that's $394,000 a year from a water fund that we got $1 million in. We can fund it for 2 years, and we're out of money, and we can't pay our debt service that we have obligated to pay. So, I mean, we got to think about that, and not conflate general fund and water and enterprise fund.
Well, you know, I don't use that to cause any confusion, but we know that if the water department doesn't meet its obligations, who pays it? We've done that, and we've done that for years. even when monthly situations happen, like if the water department, he just mentioned 3 years ago, was in a deficit, well, who was funding it? We were, right? And then they pay it back eventually.
Every
But-
month.
But just to
still
be
doing
clear,
that, yeah.
right, but just to be clear, when I look at, and again, I'm going to hone in on Macon Water Authority for just a moment, it's a wastewater treatment issue that we could have resolved 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. We went on sort of a binge of doing some spending and some investing. If we make a capital campaign for specific projects, right, county-based, we can earmark resources for those things. And again, it doesn't necessarily come out of the water department in particular. With regard to wastewater treatment in River North, the package plant that I found just a few weeks ago was 1.5 million. It was almost enough with another tank to service River North. 1.5 million, so we're talking about a 4 or 5 year payback. And then it's $400,000 of profit because we own the system. I'm just talking about creative ways of removing the debt to bring long-term return, because I think from a business perspective of how to make this work, right? When I think of, if I had to do that entire bond obligation, the worst thing that happens, no offense to anybody, is you create a tax allocation district across the entire county, and it's $500,000, right? It's $500,000 to get 300,000. I don't want to raise taxes, but I know our rollbacks service that debt. Yeah, it's about $500,000. Okay,
What is a mill? Do you know what a mill is?
it's a little over 780,000 right now,
365,000.
sir.
Okay.
All right, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that.
we'll look at it in our budget,
Yeah.
in our budget session, because I just run the numbers today,
Yeah.
and at today's rate.
If it went down, then I'm not talking about $1 million. I'm talking about a
No,
millage
1
rate.
mil of
Right.
tax
Right.
revenue, yeah.
Now, maybe our tax base expanded and that number has changed, and that's okay. I could be off, but all I'm saying is if we're doing major capital projects because we have not done right as managers of the county's money and the infrastructure is dilapidated, I don't want to be like Georgia Power, but I'm okay with being like Georgia Power. Hey, everybody has to participate to make sure that the roads and the bridges and the infrastructure is there. Nobody wants to do that or say that nasty word, and we don't have to, because I think we have enough resources to do it. We just have to be strategic. But worst case scenario, we have the Georgia Power method where everybody participates to make sure that all of the boats on this lake continue to float.
I think our biggest issue is we're talking about water and sewer, which is an enterprise fund that none of our other funds pay for. So it is nobody. That's why you don't have every city and county that has their own utility departments and all that kind of stuff. And there's very few that run their own water, power, and sewer systems, countywide. So I just think we're talking about an item that is not sexy. It's not something that anybody wants to vote on to spend the money for it. But we're sitting here talking about now, we got to have it. And so we've got to make those hard decisions. I'm agreeing with you 100%. We got to figure out how to get there. But it's not piecemealing it one at a time, which is what we've been doing, is where I agreed with you from the beginning. We've been doing that, and it's getting farther and farther because we're paying 100 here, 100 here, 100 here. Pretty soon we need 500, and we've already paying 400, and we don't have it. And that's where we're getting ourselves, or gotten ourselves now. So I think we need to, sit down and figure out what our vision is, what our plan is, and get there. But we keep, it wasn't too long ago we had those 3 projects that the water department brought us, and 2 of them are in my district, and I was the first one to vote against them because they were not a good return on investment. I sat down with 2 of those families last week, and I got a lot of tail, but I ain't got much of it left after that one because they told me what they thought about it. And I can't blame them at all because it was a wrong from 15 years ago that we can't fix now without spending a crazy amount of money that will never pay us back. So,
And it's unfortunate we're now at, that last mile or the furthest mile away. I mean, Bradley is far, far away, and that's why pressure is low and the cost to get there is more. And it's not so much a return on investment for that particular neighborhood as much as it's what's needed, right? And not to quote the pastor, because I'm going to misquote it, but he says sometimes the need is the emergency. All I'm saying is let's be creative in every solution to the challenge or problem that we have, and find or create a pathway out. Make them water authority paying sewer. If we don't address that, it's perpetual, never ending. If we don't expand the water system by putting in the necessary wells or buying additional water sources, which we talked about months ago, identifying these large property owners that have water sources, and I don't remember that coming back to us, but the summer's approaching. I'm thankful that we're going to have rain for a few days, but you know what? The summer's approaching. And Gray will have challenges with water. I won't, because I live on a well. And if I have to beg Dr. Gray, I think I could run me a water hose over to the 25-acre lake and get me some water. But that's not a solution for Gray. So when we talk about those things, all of that has to be on the table, and that has to be real, because I don't know if Henderson goes out what the real impact of that is. I know some stuff is off, but what does that really mean when people show up to get water? Like when there was a flood and you couldn't get water out of Macon and you had to show up and get a jug. I don't want that for Jones County, but I don't know what that looks like. And you don't have tail now. I don't even want to be a part of that conversation.
I was there in '94. I know. I worked for him then too.
So my Saturdays right now have some track and field, but let me know what Saturdays y'all want to do and let's get it done.
We'll do it. Anything else? No action needed on this tonight. Who wants to start on department head?
Was that?
Come on.
Hold on.
Ashley, you want?
Ashley, did you say something?
Yeah, so, last meeting.
Hold on.
To move forward with funding this project and taking out a bond. If that's not the intention now of the board, there is a vote needed. I mean, if you all want to step back, meet with the engineer, meet with finance, and come up with more of a comprehensive plan, that's fantastic, but we need a vote to rescind sort of the directions that you all gave out as far as contacting bond counsel and starting that process, regional commission, all of that.
But Ashley, I don't think anybody said they wanted to back up. I didn't hear that because I don't know what the additional matching funds are at this point. I don't know what information was coming back from the PFA and all the other directives that we gave. So until I have that information, I'm not rescinding any vote unless that was.
Okay.
Well, Ashley, we did get the email we got from the engineer. We did find out that we were at 2.9 million. That's what we had to come up with for the project because we were 3.9 total. That was I got original.
I was talking about funding sources. I know he sent another email out.
Yeah, so we were at 3.9 that we had to come up with. Well, that was what we agreed to 2.9 through PFA. Well, now we're not at 3.9, we're at 5.9. So we got that 2.9 won't do the project. 2.9 plus $1 million won't do the project.
And we've
That
got,
is right. It will not do the project. So
We're still 2
I'm in a
million
position
short.
where I can't. I mean, I can tell bond counsel move forward with 2.9, but it's just going to sit in a bank account. It's not going to get the project done. So what you all approved is not going to get the project done. And we're now in a position where at the end of March, having the bond done for PFA, lightning speed is 60 days, and even the regional commission is I think in a roundabout way trying to say that it is going to be a bit of a miracle for them to get it done by the deadline of June the 1st. And so less than 60 days by statute we can't even do. So I mean, we're coming up to a point where the money allocated is not going to do the project, and having a Saturday meeting may be great, but you will not leave enough time by statute for us to be able to complete the bond process.
all right. So with that,
I mean, 60 days is like lightning fast. I mean, it generally takes at least 90. So We already 2 weeks ago were really cutting it close and going to have to sort of cross our fingers and say a little prayer to get it done by that deadline. So, I mean, pushing this off, not having, what's been approved, not finishing the project and limiting the time even further, there simply is not going to be enough time. There's no way to do it. And so,
So it sounds
letting
like,
you guys know.
does that mean the work wasn't done on what we voted on previously?
No, bond council was contacted.
Oh, okay.
And the county engineer says that is not, the money's not, 2.9 is not enough to do your project. So bond council said, well, I can move forward with 2.9, but it's going to sit in a bank account, unused. Is that what your board really wants to do? And then I don't think accounting knows how it's going to be paid for. So we don't know really what we need to do. If accounting doesn't know how to pay for it, your engineer says that's far less than what it takes to do the project. I don't think bond council or myself are comfortable saying, yes, move forward with 2.9 to sit in a bank account for a year. I mean, so the board's got to give everybody direction.
I didn't change direction. I said find the money. So I don't know.
So the vote was for 2.9 million to go after the $1 million grant.
Absolutely.
So they had a couple of directions. They were to go, Tim was supposed to look at the tower, the standpipe, and the booster pumps, because we had made some assumptions that we could take the booster pump out. We could either use the tank or the standpipe. That got us to the 3.9, 2.9 of us, 1 million from the grant.
Yep.
Second part of it, get with Regional Commission, Bond Council, all that about how we get the 2.9 funded through PFA. So, talking to the Bond Council, based on his email, the first thing we got was, which he mentioned that night, we didn't think we were going to be able to use the tower. So we got to have the pumps and we got to have the tower to be able to run the water there. Under the conclusion, for this area to be served, the proposed elevated tank must be constructed as well as the booster pump station. These two components are the two most critical aspects of the project. So that is what I outlined here. If you look at the pump station, the storage options, and the two road services, comes to $5.987 million. We're still looking at $1 million for the grant. So, from what I understand, speaking with the bond folks, they don't recommend borrowing in hopes of getting $1 million grant, because if you borrow 4.9 and you don't get the million, you still can't do the project. We got to have 5.9 to get the water there. So if we do the 4.9 and don't get the million, we still can't do the project. So, but if we borrow the 5.9, we don't get the grant. So are we guaranteeing we're going to do the project and borrowing 5.9 million, or are we hoping to get the grant and borrowing 4.9, and if we don't, we can't do the project? So that's where we stood on it. But the vote of this board was, originally, John had proposed 250 to 500,000 to go as match money after the grant. Well, then after discussion, the 2.9 was where we agreed to go to the PFA for the 2.9. That's not, there wasn't an agreement to go 2.9, and if it goes to 5.9, we just go for 5.9. That motion was for 2.9 for the $1 million grant, meaning a $3.9 million project. So I don't think that's not going to work. The 3.9 is not going to do the project. Now, we can stay with that vote if y'all want and borrow 2.9 million in hopes of getting $1 million, but you'll never get water out after that. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't.
It's a liability because we have no water pressure to fill the hydrant.
And we don't have a way of paying for $2.9 million worth of
Oh, yeah, that was
funding.
You read my mind.
And that's where I got 2.9% right now for $5.9 million is $394,869 a year for 20 years, based on today's rates. $394,869 to do this project for 20 years if we bond it today. My question is, I'm not questioning the need. I know there's the need. My question is, where are we going to get $400,000 a year out of the water department for this one project when we're sitting there talking about sitting down and figuring out what our whole county looks like?
Well, this is a spiraling ball of yarn because, there's a lot of issues. If the public would read, got a copy of this and read, go out Highway 11, you see the big water tank sitting right behind us here. It's not even connected to the Highway 11 line. It is a roundabout way through downtown Gray, but it does not connect. So there's a lot of water issues that we are having to deal with our city partners. If this project doesn't happen this year, we'll apply for it next year. But the need is out there. Frankly, I've never seen the hydrant hooked to it, Bradley Baptist Church, because the pressure is so low. It might take you 30 minutes to fill a fire truck. It's that bad. I've heard from former employees at the nursing home, really can't watch two people at one time because it's such low water pressure. So you have existing customers been out there for they've had water for 30 years. They've been dealing with issues because maybe it's infrastructure. What you can't see in the ground, we don't know at this time of how pipes are connected or not connected or where problems are. I mean, I've talked with Tim. This is a much bigger picture, and you have a community out there that is in need because when there's a fire, heaven forbid if a train comes, that cuts off your water supply or delays fire trucks from hauling water or whatever's going on. This is a much bigger picture for an area that is in need, and this project has expanded beyond what we initially ever talked about of going all the way possibly to the cell tower on Highway 11 near Green Settlement Road for a water tank in that area. So that's the reason the cost is such a higher number than what we initially looked at and talked about. I think Commissioner Martin and Wendy, I think y'all would agree this project is snowballed.
Absolutely. The numbers look significantly different, and my priority is getting the water out there. I'm not so concerned about how the extras happened, and I'm looking through the emails trying to make it make sense, right? And at the very minimum, getting water to the people, if that is phase one, and then doing something else in phase two, I'm okay with that because there's a need. Tim's numbers are different from the first meeting, right?
I got the last meeting's numbers right here in these minutes, and I can lay them right side by side. So the numbers are different, but they're less. The original project was $7.082 million, and
Yep.
he's gotten it down to 5.9 by reducing the booster pump station from 1.5 million to 560,000. The Hungerford Road service area went from 2.17 to 1.9. The Highway 11 service area went from 2.09 to 2.2.
Yep.
The storage options went from they stayed at 1.3 for the storage tank. So yes, the numbers have changed. They've gone down $1 million. So I don't know. The numbers are different, but they're not in the wrong direction.
But it's what
So
we.
this didn't.
But is what the intent of Commissioner Wood was after with the motion and the application of the grant is what he's talking about. I can honestly tell you, I don't know all of those components that have to make it work out there. It's not my job to know. My job is to figure out how we get the resources there, right? And if it fits into our vision, if we're trying to address a water need and a fire protection, and make sure customers have the resources they need to live, because being able to flush a toilet once or twice a day, I'm not sure that that's county living.
And I don't know that that's happening. I mean, we run flow tests on our pipe. So, no disrespect, John. I heard somebody say this. Well, I heard somebody say that their water wasn't this, but we're not getting flow tests that show we can't flush 2 toilets at once.
Well, they came up and they talked about toilet flushing and taking a bath and washing clothes.
On wells.
I was going to say that
Oh.
has nothing to do with
Well,
us.
but I'm just talking about just that
Right,
part I
so-
hear.
so,
yeah.
all those people that were talking have wells. So,
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with us, but, I mean, the numbers are coming down, but
perspective.
we're also talking about, I mean, I just said that 2 weeks ago, we had an issue from 10 years ago that we didn't fix because it wasn't the right return on investment. We voted that one down unanimously. And here we are having a 10-year problem that wasn't fixed then, that we're bringing up for a vote, and we're saying cost doesn't matter. It's wrong and we need to fix it. There's a need and we need to fix it. Are we saying, is this board saying that we're going from borrowing 2.9 million to borrowing 5.9 million for 68 residents in this area? Because I mean, I can do the math right quick, but I guarantee you that payback's going to be probably 200 or 300 years
Right.
payback.
And it's unfortunate that a water tower is needed in that area, but that's not just to service those people. Now, I'm not excited about trying to move to 5.9 million. I can tell you that was not our goal. But the water tower is not about 60 people. It's about fire protection in the entire area. And it's also backup for areas that have low water pressure. So it's a component of the system, much like when you guys came in, we had to complete this loop, and we completed some loops that didn't exactly have the density, but it made sense to complete a loop, right? Or, the challenge or the issue is, there's water here and we've got to dump this water here, or this water has to move. But it comes back to what is needed, right? They need water, and we also need fire protection out there. They had citizens that couldn't even get insurance, and then he finally got it. I'm curious about that part. But we know that that's an issue because I've asked the fire chief about addressing ISO ratings in areas so we could improve on our citizens' fire insurance. The reality is you got homes that burn down out there because there's absolutely no fire protection. We got homes in other parts of the county that burn down too. Yes, we know that. But we know every time a house catch on fire out there, it's going to burn down. It's not a question.
I don't know that that's a fair statement either.
They'd have to run back here to get water. How does that work in terms of time and space?
So we've only had one fire out there in the history of our fire department that a house burnt down. I'm sure we've had fires that got put out because they're taking truckloads of water out there.
That house was not easily accessible either.
No, it sits way back in there. I mean,
We had other houses and then
yeah,
Look, I don't know. Y'all know. I can only repeat what I heard, right? Because I'm not a fire person. I'm not there, right? But we know it's a fact that it caught on fire, right?
That is the fact that it burnt down. Too,
Hey,
yeah.
listen, our house is on McCreary Drive. You tell me how that house burned down. And I'm right between the fire station, two fire stations. That's a whole nother issue. But we'll talk about fire staffing and all that other stuff.
Right now, some action needs to be taken. As Ashley reminds us, and I miss you beside me, patting on my leg, saying you forgot something, but keep me straight. You still there? Okay.
I am.
We
I mean,
need,
we just need to know bond counsel, your engineer, myself, 2.9 is not going to do your project. So bond counsel said, well, does your board want to do 5.9? Then regardless of whether they get the million or they don't get the million, the project can be done versus having 2.9 sitting in an account and not doing the project. And our engineer says this is what it takes to do the project. So I don't know if you all, knowing that with the time frame we're on, it's probably not going to happen this year anyway, if you want to shoot for the April 1st and figure out what you want to do about the 5.9, where it's going to come from, whether or not you approve it, or if you're saying, let's just take a shot and you're approving the 5.9, but we all need direction.
we don't have the money. I'll be just common sense, plain and simple, to the point, politically correct. We don't have the money to do it. And all you have to do is sit with a finance director, anybody here that hasn't talked to her, and see the sweat on her forehead when she says, we can't do this. We won't be having this conversation long. As I said, our whole community has needs, but
For this one, it comes out of our water fund. So
Yeah.
you're right. The numbers don't add up. But did John? Did you make the motion last time?
I did, and,
So
but
I would say we'd have to rescind that one. And if you want to know the motion based
We
on
don't have
these
a key.
numbers,
you know, Levita's not here with us tonight, and
I can probably get her, Lavina.
we don't have all the key components of engineering. We don't, you know, but I'm just saying, this project, we started one conversation, and this project
Snowball.
snowballed. And so it's kind of it's a side swipe, really, and I'm just being politically incorrect of saying that we started one project, but we expanded it faster than you could probably type.
So
Because
what-
it's,
What project did we, I mean, I don't mean I don't know what you mean by sideswipe.
well, it's a,
I hope you don't feel like
No.
you're sideswiping by.
no, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm trying to be politically correct here in a meeting, but it snowballed faster than what, I mean, these people have a definite need, the whole Highway 11 corridor. We don't have hydrant tests, we don't know flow tests, there's a lot of components that, details that we don't know. We're estimating on some things, speculating on others, but we know we have a need out there, and the financial is an issue. I don't like spending money, I don't like borrowing money, but what do you do?
So are you saying you want flow testing out there so we
Well,
know?
That's not gonna solve the issues here, because I just don't think we have I don't think we have all our horses. If it was a team of horses, we're not pulling all in the same direction on this, because there's certain ones that want this project to happen, there's certain other parts of the county are gonna get looked after with bigger, grander plans of water projects, and that's, you know, Highway 11 Bradley is gonna be left behind for a while. You know, is the way I feel.
We're not trying to slight any district equally.
Well, Chairman, I'm gonna speak up on this. I mean, John, you can get mad if you want to, but.
I'm not upset.
Well, it sounds like, I felt that you were saying that you're getting slighted on this project, and this is the project from on March the 6th that was brought based on what y'all asked for the project in Bradley. Is there something before March the 6th that I don't know about? Because this was the numbers that we brought that were 7.02, and in the conversation, we got to 2.9. Now we're back to 5.9, and y'all are saying, or somebody's saying that this is being snowballed and other parts of the county gonna get it. I'm feeling some way about that.
I understand about elevation, where water tanks, different heights and different things like that.
With all due respect, John, you're not an engineer. We're depending on an engineer to tell us, and he's giving us these numbers. And if we don't depend on them, we got problems.
I've read his report, and I understand. I met with him at my office the other week.
Are you saying you don't agree with it?
No, I didn't say that. I met with him at my office. We looked at topographical maps, and it made sense what he told me. But I'm just saying, this project expanded faster than.
It hadn't
We got-
expanded. This is the project right here, 7.082. It hadn't expanded. And I'm not gonna listen to this project got expanded and not say something about it.
Well, and I mean, in the meeting last week, Tim did keep saying that they didn't know about a tower that was already up there that's of no use. So if that was, the 2.9 was if that tower could be used, and that it can't be used, so there goes that 2.9 has now rolled into, we've got to have the tower there in order to have the water pressure that's needed,
And
correct?
another thing, well, we got a difference on the bus booster pump too. If we put fire hydrants out there, we're liable for them. We have to have
They have to
all
follow
these
a certain-
components to do what we're gonna do. We can't piecemeal it.
They have to flow a certain minimum to be
Right.
even in the ground. I understand that.
So help me with this part. If you just got water to the people, right? At the very minimum, and unfortunately Tim is not here, just to get water out there, because we talked about phases last meeting, right? Doing it in phases. If you just got water, what's just the cost for water, right?
He just give you
Yep. Right.
Maybe I misspoke in saying in stages or things like that, applying on grants. Maybe that wasn't the best choice of wording, but, you know, if you don't have water, you either have to haul it or your house is uninhabitable.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it. And we know of people on 49 that have moved to another county that had to haul water for years, and finally they live in another county.
Yep.
Relocated.
So if we're talking about just getting water to the people, now we're taking out the fire safety, houses burning down, all that scenario. Is there anybody on any of these roads that don't have water now?
I don't
hadn't
know.
heard that, because I mean.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and we do have that issue on 49 that
Right.
we've known about, that we can't
Right.
get there from here type thing. But
Yep.
if we're talking about just water, hell, I'd rather buy 60 people $10,000 wells. That's $600,000. We might can afford that. I mean,
Hey, listen,
And
you're
what are we
asking.
talking about here?
Listen, the only reason why that was even brought up, because y'all talked about phases at the last meeting, and it's not that you're not going to put the fire protection in. It's here's $1 million. This is what helps us to qualify for the grant, right? Based on the cost and the number of houses sold. I mean, number of houses served. And then here's this next component. That's the only reason why that's out there. If you're asking me if I had $3 million, what I want to do with it, I want to connect the industrial park to sewer, right? But if I've got to give people water, right, and fire protection, I'd rather do that because I understand that. Because I've been in a couple of house fires, so that's personal to me, right?
Right.
Guys, I don't know all the components for this piece. I do not, and I don't pretend to. There was a vote that was taken on it, and I'm not saying that that's the solution, because obviously we know that the project falls short based on the way the numbers are. Then we have to be creative to find the rest of it, if that's his will, or that's the will of the board, or the will of the board votes in a different direction. So somebody either make a motion or move on.
clarification on just getting water, that number that Sam's got has got to be done. If you put water, hydrants have to go in.
I
So
understand.
you don't have any option. This board needs to make a decision, you know, what direction we're gonna go. You know,
Well,
you've got the number.
Chris, I've thought about it for several weeks, probably over a month and a half, since you called me one day and told me that you and Sam had met with Tim out there in Bradley.
I met with Tim.
Right,
and then I
y'all
met
both
with-
had met with him out there and told me the project couldn't go forward.
Well, let's be
And then
clear, I hadn't been to Bradley, so.
No.
Y'all had met, and I was told y'all had met, and that I needed to prepare a speech for my people out, in my residents out there, and tell them that the project couldn't go forward. I'm just being honest and I'm being fair.
Right.
I'm gonna have to tell them. I'm gonna have to call them.
Well, John, please don't say Sam, because I've never been in any of
I'm
those
just saying-
All right,
conversations.
you can,
I'm just
you
Me
can
and
put my
Chairman have
name.
not had that
I'm just-
conversation.
He had a conversation with me about it.
I did.
Yeah, but it wasn't with me and you and him.
No,
Let's be clear
I
on that,
met-
'cause I
I
don't
met
know
with
anything
you,
about
John.
that conversation. Hadn't heard it till
and
now.
you hadn't come to the meeting because I had concerns, and I sit down with
That
you.
was before that. That was before that meeting. I'd have to look
Okay.
back on my phone, but anyway.
Whatever it was, but,
It's,
and what
I
did I
understand.
tell you
I
then? You need to look at the numbers and the cost.
I
And
understand
at
that.
that point, it was the 7-something that,
We need, as Commissioner Martin said earlier, we need to look at the grander vision of what areas in the county have true need of water and things like that, and look at our budgets and figure out a master plan, because we are making legacy decisions. These water lines go in the ground. That water line's been in the ground 31 years going to Bradley. It's put in like 92, I believe, 91, 92. It's probably good for another 50 years at least.
Yeah.
We're making legacy decisions that's going to affect people the rest of
Right.
all of our lives and probably our kids' lives.
Right.
And against my better judgment, I'm going to rescind my motion about because I don't have the support of various components that are essential to this. And at a later time, we will readdress the Bradley water issue.
I don't think they'd be smart, because, I mean, we're not saying no, we're just, I mean, for conversation, do we have a second for rescinding?
A second.
Okay, conversation. Things to think of. Baldwin County put county-wide water in using SPLOST. It took them 5 SPLOST. That's something we could look at. You talk about legacy?
It is a legacy decision.
Yeah, legacy citizen. That's something we can look at, because as I said in my notes, every district in this county has needs, and it's equally important. And that's that's how I started my comment off. Any other comment?
We do all have needs, and in every one of them, I happen to have one of those districts that's got people with no water in it because of the rock quarries. They touch right at mine and Daylon's lines right there, and we know that water's coming that way. When? We don't know. But we've got to figure out the other things that go with that. Where's the future well in the water that we're going to need with growth going to come from? And those are things that you and I do not know because it's never been on our agenda to really look at as new commissioners.
Future
And
water is
that's
one
why-
of those things even Tim is
Very
searching
co-
and reaching and looking at all times.
Yes.
Where can we get our next water supply?
And that's why I would love, as that legacy of what we are creating, to have that vision of what is our strategic plans for what we're going to accomplish next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because it's already there and allocated. That who proceeds after us doesn't have to worry about what we did. We secured what we did with the money there for the actions that we set. That we know that we were looking out for our future. And that's what I want to reach. That I want to see where we're gonna where we need to be and where we will be in 5 and 10 years.
Any more discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Move ahead. John?
I don't know if I want to come up or not.
You're good. You know you're gonna sit through this.
How y'all doing?
Shannon said 30 minutes.
I said 15. Boy,
I
it's all
said
right.
5 and then I'm gone.
Okay.
We got little dump trucks that they old. And we got one down at Lawrence right there, and it probably costs at least $40,000 to get it fixed. That's the motor, computer for it, wiring, all that stuff. And I've came to y'all, I think in the last 5 years with the motor graders, and they ain't getting no better. And the rubber-tired backhoes that we run about every day, they in pretty bad shape. All the stuff we got is 20 years old. Just something for y'all to think about.
I talked to you earlier, and I told you that I too talked to Haskins, and he said, you're gonna spend way more money than this truck's ever gonna be worth. So I did reach out to Mr. Risner to check with our leasing company on mid-size trucks, which he said he would. Your motor grader, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that in the budget to rebuild one of the motor
We
graders?
built one and, yeah.
Right, so we need to go
I
ahead.
heard it wasn't in there.
Well, I'll double check on that for you, all right? I'll get with my finance director and she can let me, like I said, I don't, every department head in there, if you come up with a need, the first thing I ask you to do, have you talked to Levita? Because if she says no, we can't afford it. Or yes, she's told me no before and laughed about it, knowing we had it, but I still go and ask her. Because, she needs to be the first person. If Mr. Risner has he'll go to her, I promise you. Because she's, that finance department is her baby.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And this is one of those prime examples where T-Splosh, the transportation splosh, that,
Work my rear end off of that. Ooh, I did that one, but yeah, we know the need. Well, in fact, we'll put it on the next agenda so we can kind of get a good, if you give us kind of a good idea, what we got to need ASAP, and we'll see what we work on. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
I mean, like I said, this stuff's old
Yeah.
and it's gonna break down.
You're still here? You're old?
See,
I'm old too.
I'm going home to get me something to eat.
Are you talking to me?
No, I ain't talking to you.
no,
Lady-
Ashley, you're the baby.
He called you old. ain't he?
Ladies first. I should ask for ladies first. Jennifer,
I'll be quick.
good deal.
So
Come up here so everybody can hear you, because there's people at home want to know what's being said.
Just a couple things I wanted to tell y'all. Saturday, April 1st, we are having a free microchipping event. Not for your wives or kids, but for your animals. And the first 100 chips we're going to be giving away for free. We've been blessed this year, and we feel like this is our best way to give back to the community. Also, Justin Kelly at Dairy Queen, a couple of months back, did a Shop Local Challenge, if everyone sort of remembers that. And we were one of the 3 recipients of this said challenge, and we got the check today for the shelter, and it was $12,800.
Very good.
So we're going to use that money in the best way possible for the animals.
Hope you took a picture of it and gave it to Miss Debbie.
I did put a picture, actually, I posted it on our Facebook page.
All right, good.
Jennifer, what times are the microchipping events?
So Saturday, April 1st, from 8 a.m. to 12 noon.
Where
At Tractor Supply here in Gray.
Okay.
And we're expecting a large turnout, so this is our way to give back, just a little bit that we can, so. If everyone has family, spread the word,
Right.
come out. Thank y'all for all your support.
Thank you.
You're next.
Think you've heard enough about water tonight? I don't have anything. Thank y'all for all y'all do.
Good.
We're staying busy over here. Our kids are short sweet.
Miss Shannon, Miss Ashley. Oh, Miss Ashley's gone. Ain't
She's still there.
she? Miss Ashley, you got anything?
No, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. I miss you. I need you beside me, keeping me straight.
I'll be there next meeting. I appreciate y'all letting me go.
Have fun. Family first. Remember what I say?
I appreciate it. The girls are having a blast.
All right. Wish we were there. All right. Miss Shannon, anything? Citizen comment. I got a young lady come up to me about.
Been waiting patiently.
All right, so speaking of water, I just have a concern about a water bill. And I've got some copies for everybody, if it's okay if I give those to y'all. So these are actually like several months.
Thank you. Thank you.
And my name's Jamie Harrelson, by the way.
And your address too. I'm sorry for the record.
616, one
You got,
song way.
oh, you got another thing? Okay.
So if you look through the water bill, so the bill from September, that's the first water bill, was $26.13. And then going through 4 months consecutively, my bill was $18.61. And so we didn't have a problem until we got to the February bill, which was $75.01. So my problem though is when you look at the readings for those 4 consecutive months where the total was $18.61, the previous reading and the current reading were both the same, 405. So in the month of February, how did my reading go from 405 to 422?
Is your meter messed up? Is that what it is?
Yes.
So I personally called myself and I spoke with Gabby. in my personal opinion, she was very rude. She
Yeah,
said,
we don't need to get in, I mean,
I'm
for,
sorry.
for public, no, yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I just got to stop
Sure.
you on that, but
okay.
have you talked to that young man right
So
there?
my mom, Teresa Van Horn,
Okay.
actually called and spoke with Brandon.
Okay,
So basically what they told me and my mom, she talked to them at the water company too, they said that I use that water. There's no way that I use that much water. I mean, it's me and my daughter at home. They sent some people out to look, to check the meter. She told me at the water company there was no leak. I personally went out and looked under the house. I could not find a leak. And I don't know, it may have been coincidence, but it was funny that the water meter got changed out the same week that I started complaining about the issue.
yeah, I mean, he's shaking his head, so I would be glad to give you my personal cell phone number,
Sure.
and I'll sit down with, because I need to hear, both sides.
Sure.
I mean, it need to be objective, but
Sure.
I'm sure there's a reason for this. I mean, as many homes as I own, I can tell you how many times that your toilet might run, just hear, psst.
Sure.
You'd be surprised how much water. I mean, just a simple thing like that in the house that you don't have, just a cycle, So, I'm just saying, there's objects in the house you need to be aware of that I see every single day. But seriously, I'll give you if you'll wait, we're just about through this meeting, I'll give you my personal cell phone number, I'll get your contact information, I'll get with Brandon.
Okay. And I think my confusion was why did it say, the reading stayed the exact same for 4 consecutive months, and then all of a sudden it changed from 485 to 41?
Right,
I have a question. Brandon, does the certain water meters, you can run an electronic profile, and literally you can see the water started flowing at 2:01 a.m. and quit at 2 weeks later at 3:56 p.m. in the afternoon. Can you print that?
It depends, our meters. Yeah.
I know that City of Gray, I've had some leaks in various apartment buildings, and I'll go for a commercial building.
Not a leak, there's no leak.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify that.
right,
If you
okay,
get
so
a
she didn't,
profile line.
her little,
No leak.
No, 'cause it
okay,
looks
so
like
it wasn't anything in her house.
Right.
All right, well, we know there's a problem, I'm sure
Right.
we can fix, how's that?
You've already fixed it, right?
Yes.
You've already replaced it.
All right, well, I'll get with Brandon, I'll get with you, and Jason, our administrator's not in, if he was here, he's on vacation with his family this week. He's in the mountains, I think, chaperoning his son, so, 10 years old? I imagine he's having a good time. So I'm kind of, you call me anytime, but, well, I'll get you an answer, how's that?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on citizen comment? Missed anything? Woo, who wants to start off tonight? Go ahead, Daylon. You already got a smile on your face.
Look, I'm a little sad by the vote, but I understand what's necessary. Always have, and it's always a tough decision up here. I'm looking forward to a strategic planning session where we really put the county's best minds and invite you all to bring your best minds and give us some help and guidance to get us where we need to go. Because to John's point and Sam and Wendy, these are legacy decisions that have to be made for some of your kids and grandkids. My last one is in the back and just single parent and having fun.
She's pretty like her mama.
Thank God for her mama. All right, that's my last one, and I can tell you, I don't have a strong legacy in Jones County. They're all graduating and going away to find other jobs. I don't know what her plan is long term, but I know that there are a host of other kids and families that'll be here, and we have to make tough decisions. But I think we can make smart decisions that benefits us. We left a meeting in Atlanta, and you know. It kept getting worse. Like when we're watching the presentation, like, dang, they spent all these millions of dollars. Oh no, they spent like 10 more million. Oh no, they were like 40 million in the hole, right? But they're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. It took them 20 years to get there, right? And my God, Facebook lives in the backyard and is low impact. Citizens are mad that Rivian is coming. I hope we have that kind of problem. But we won't have that kind of problem if we don't do what's necessary now. So that's all I got, Chairman. Let's just do what's necessary now for those legacies. Because I'll come back and visit.
You got any leak?
No, but 40 years from now. It took them 20 years to get sewer, man. God, I don't want it to take 20 years to get sewer.
I've got a challenge that we've got to fulfill because I'm the champion right now, and since we hired anybody for
To
Chief
help you
Jones'
cheat
deal?
again? No.
Let me pop you a pilot for
I'm
you.
sorry, did I say that out loud?
You're just jealous because I had more people to help than you. But we got to plan a day for cleanup day.
We got that. It's May. Where's,
It's May.
Have you heard of a day?
I didn't know.
I ain't heard of
He
it.
scheduled a date already?
The planning committee has done, you need to get on the planning committee. I don't know what else to tell y'all. Step up. Get it done. I don't remember when it was, but it
But it
was-
is in May.
Yeah, we were going around Mother's Day, Easter,
Yes.
Share it
us
with
out
us
of
so we
town.
know.
Yeah, all of us would really like to know that date that you're going to be out there collecting trash without the rest
I'll
of
let
us.
you know about midday.
Okay.
There's a flyer,
Yeah.
It hasn't been sent out yet.
but there's information on it.
She's still working on it.
Okay.
Because, I got to get my
Punch you
crews
and get
together so that I can hold on to my golden trophy.
Wow.
Yeah. But other than that, Easter's right around the corner, and that's probably one of my favorite holidays, even though it's not really a holiday. It's, but I do enjoy Easter egg hunts, so I'm getting ready for that. And do what? You're whispering.
Don't worry about all that. You carry on with your little stuff over there. We got
So, and we got spring break coming up for the schools, and all of us are really ready for some spring breaks. That's it.
Commissioner Wood?
All right, let's see. I had a bit of good news. We needed that tonight. Let's see. Rick Williams called Wendy the other week, and Wendy got in touch with me. And thanks to Rick Williams and Ken Vance at the state capitol, GDOT has approved. We haven't gotten the letter yet, so it's not official, but 70% cost to replace the bridge on Union Hill Church Road in the north end of the county. That was washed out back in October of 21, so it's been out quite a while. It does affect quite a few families and a church in that area that makes quite a long detour for them and also delays emergency services. So I'm thankful to hear the good news, just waiting on the letter to make it official. And so Jason asked me to pass that along tonight.
All right. And I had somebody tell me, he said, you must have some tremendous pull because there's projects still that haven't taken place. And I said, we got good representation up there, and you just named one of them. We got Washburn and Vance, and like I said, they all kicked in. They said, we're all going to gang up on them. And said, I don't know who you know up there, but it happened. And I said, it's just our representation represented us very well. So that was a.
Now, if we can just get some action on some of the bypass issues, because I know it's,
Yes.
as the project near the Gray Highway and 18 gets closer to completion, I hear there's a new entrance that'll come out across from 18, so we won't have traffic issues with the lighting issues that we have on the bypass at intersections, and then some type of traffic control device there. So we have ongoing issues that never stop.
You sit on that board now.
I know, but they don't cover that far.
Yeah, but you got contacts there. You
Oh,
can make and shake hands. And,
I have spoken to the head
Right, that's what I'm
of
saying.
safety for GDOT at length after a meeting, and he said the letter was in his hand for the lighting on the bypass, but they had made no action yet.
yeah, but you, like I said, you just got to.
When I see him again,
You got
we
to
will have
work.
another
You just got to shake
conversation.
your hand. You didn't forget me, did you?
No, we have conversations up there.
All right, good deal. I know it was in good hands when you took it over. You through?
Yes,
No, I'm talking about look at this.
Sam.
Wait, Don.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
good. I was had to pick at you. You through? You got quiet there for a minute. All right, Commissioner Kitchen, we got to have a laugh.
Yeah, well, I will say it's great news on John getting with the representatives and getting that help, and I think I'll say this, it's a testament to what goes on behind the scenes of having to, not having to, but being able to reach out to your representatives, sitting on boards that mean things. John being on this board now gives us that representation, not just in his district, but as a county, to get things done that are that may or may not even be in his district. So I think those are absolute added values to our positions on this board. And I know this board knows it, and I want to say it specifically to John and to the public, that I hope people understand that, this is like when you're fighting with your brothers and sisters. You can have a knockdown drag out. At the end of the day, you're still brothers and sisters. You still love each other, and you're still not mad at each other. We're not going home mad tonight, but I just want the public to know that I hope they understand that the passion we have here is because we care that much about what we're pushing for. And that John feels one way and I feel another way about something, that we're going to fight all the way to the end, but we're going to get to a resolution at the end that 99% of the time is going to have the public's best interest and the financial best interest. I know he knows, and I hope the public knows, that we're going to find a way to get water to everybody in this county at some point. How we get there and when we can get there is what we got to fight about, but we fight for the right reasons. And so I just want everybody to understand that we get passionate because we care. And it's hard not to get passionate. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. I really feel that way. So I thank all of our department heads and our staff for doing what they do, because they make it easy for us. So that's it, Chairman.
Ms. Phone, it's all up to you.
Make a motion.
Sorry, just wanted to say this real quick, because we didn't say it again, I don't think, but special thanks to the finance department again for another clean audit.
Amen.
Levita, if you're listening, we love you, and we really appreciate everything you do to make us look good and keep us out of jail.
We all owe you lunch.
Yep.
Amen.
Probably looking right now, dancing the jig.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I can't say a second, but I'm getting ready to.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
You want these water bills back? They got your account numbers and stuff.
Yeah, we don't need them.
I don't.
Ma'am,
I mean, you don't want to see me wandering around out there looking at your water meter and stuff,